Welcome to Get Serious. Today, an update on that 50-acre Texas parcel that we're in the midst of selling. For those of you who aren't familiar, really quick, this was a kind of golden opportunity, minor subdivide that was roughly 45 minutes outside of downtown Dallas, utilities outside of sewer that we had purchased for roughly $400K earlier this year. A developer went under contract for it for about $863. That fell through because amazingly the property was too flat. You can hear me speak about that in previous episodes. And we went under contract with another cash buyer within roughly a week after that buyer dropped for $750K. That was going to close in roughly 30 days approximately. Still a very, very solid return. Obviously, we would have loved to have the 863 here, but, can't complain too much. And the deal is just getting a little long in the tooth. Plus, there's a bit more hair on this we kind of had different buyers evaluate the deal. So still a nearly X on a very substantial investment. Can't be complaining. So I know I've talked a bit about this buyer who's looking at the deal. They were really playing hardball with us from pretty much everything. Just super, just being sticklers about the contract and every single line item and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I know I talked about this, I think last week on how we eventually said, hey, enough is enough, had to draw a line in the sand for what they were asking for. And if you don't accept these final terms, we're going to walk from the deal, because we know it's still a prized asset, even with that bit of hair that we still have on it. And they agreed to it. We signed the contract. And I talked to the broker a few days ago who had met the buyer out there, and they were walking it and just saying, yeah, we're very, very excited to close. Looking forward to wrapping this one up here next month. And their feasibility period, I think, was only 14 to 20 days, I want to say, went from when we signed the contract. So we have that in the books. Though if the feasibility period drops, technically they only had a $100 option fee, so it's almost a free option for them to get us under contract for $750,000. Pretty substantial difference there. And even with that good news, like my partner and I were just discussing this, we feel like, hey, there's going to be another shoe to drop, just given how difficult this buyer has been to work with from the start here. And I know I mentioned before, it's a certain ethnicity where their culture more is just kind of pushing in negotiations, and you just have to deal with that. It's all types of buyers, not the most easy to work with, but we were able to kind of maneuver and still find a way to get to the, at least past the initial negotiation stakes and move toward the closing table. But we just felt, hey, even if things are really looking good here, just we are expecting that something else is going to come up. They're going to continue to push us or try to look for additional concessions up until the last day of closing. So we just had that in mind. And lo and behold, maybe roughly 48 hours after they had visited the property with our broker, they were insisting that in order to close on the property, that we needed to have the existing barbed wire fence that surrounds the property moved so that it is fully in accordance with the surveyed acreage of the parent tract. And I discussed this on a previous podcast, that just the way that the property was oriented, there's a portion of the property that just makes it a little bit easier to access from one of the sides, so you didn't have to install a culvert and enter kind of directly from the main street frontage of the property. It's a little hard to describe, but there was a reason behind this. And, due to this, the barbed wire fence was offset a little bit from where some of the acreage was, and very, very minor. But they had been asking for this prior to going under contract, but it was never included within the final terms, because we just told them, hey, we're not lowering the price at all here. That's our final, if you want to do this, you can take care of it, or we can have the work done prior to close, but you're going to have to pay for it. So they didn't push on that. We didn't include it in the original contract, but they came back and are now insisting, okay, this needs to be done prior to closing here, even though it's not in writing. And so like I was just talking to the brokers, like this doesn't, why does it really matter? Like, hey, we could even set them up with a contractor so they can price it out. And they weren't insisting that we pay for it. They were just like, hey, we'll bump the purchase price, the property. It's just you guys need to do this. What does it matter? Why can't you guys, you're about to acquire this in less than a month, just do it after. Yeah, we can get you a contractor if there's really no difference in the total cost it's going to be to you. What's the necessity of doing this? And logically, like, it doesn't make any sense. But from a cultural perspective with this type of buyer, it appears it's just more of like, hey, we want to keep pushing. We want to get another psychological win from the seller here. And it's just like, okay, well, if this is what it takes to get it over the finish line, fine, but we're going to need like significant protections in place in order to do this. First, it's like a timing thing. We have a fairly tight closing date to come up here. So, both, okay, how much is it going to cost to get this done and how long can it be done? And the broker was thinking, probably between 5 to 6K and shouldn't really take that long. He did not think that it was going to take longer than closing just to move over some fencing. Like, it wasn't, a super substantial job, but, he was on top. Okay, I got to figure out where these contractors are coming in at. And ultimately it looks like it's going to be a $4,750 job, still unclear timeline. So that part needs to be determined. And then we were going to, rewrite and update the contract where, we're not going to be paying for any of this, for the final, gross sales price of the deal. So they need to up their purchase price to account for this. And if they decide to back out from the deal for whatever reason, they're going to be liable to pay for the work that we did as well. And that's what the broker was initially suggesting, but I wanted to take it a step further. I'm like, no, have them put those funds into escrow, into the title company account, because even if we have that wording for you guys need to pay this if you back out of the deal, for something that's sub 5K job, let's say they just, walked for whatever reason, we're already out the near $5,000 for doing that fencing work. It's only a cost of $100 to them. And even if we have the wording within the legal agreement, they're like, that's the thing is oftentimes there's no teeth behind the legal agreement for, lower cost jobs or lower amounts of money. Like, you're not going to sue somebody over $5,000. And that's what I was telling the broker. Like, it doesn't actually mean anything if there's no teeth behind a certain legal agreement. So we need their funds to be in to ensure that, the job is effectively paid for from them, even if we need to pay up front while the property is still under our name. Like, it's a ridiculous kind of request here. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But, again, if they're looking to get a psychological win, fine. But, you guys are going to have to eat our terms for us to do this prior to closing here. So that's what I told the broker to go back with. And then our land investor partner in the deal suggested too, it's like, yeah, we need to ensure that we remain firm on the closing date here to where, even if the job is in process, we still close on the same day. Or if you want to extend just to wait until this, fence is moved, you're going to have to put additional funds down as a hard deposit into the property. And the amount there, I would probably just ask for doubling it up, or maybe like another $1,000 probably. We didn't determine that yet because this hasn't been finalized. But another hit that's like, okay, we're working with you here for kind of a ridiculous request. If you need it to go longer, like, we're going to need extra money in to make you even more incentivized to close on this deal and make it worth our while if you guys bail on it for whatever reason, because the original hard deposit would at least cover our cost for doing the work, but we would want additional hard deposit to cover our opportunity cost of being off market. So that's the other strategic move to take into account there. So again, kind of a wild scenario to deal with here, but this is how to approach scenarios like this whenever you get into, a more difficult buyer or seller arrangement on a particular property. Like, just know where to draw the line, build in relevant protections. Know if you do have enough at stake to potentially sue if something goes south. And if you don't, make sure you have, like, if you know you're not going to sue, then you need to have more protections to ensure there's like actually teeth behind a negative outcome in the scenario that you're dealing with. So hopefully this is helpful. With this in mind, Serious Land Capital for any of your funding needs. Had a number of deals come in that were just like questionable quality here. But that's just how it goes. I saw another one just come in from Florida here recently, so I had to check that one out. Land Daily Diligence Facebook group for zero cost review of your land deals, and landpricer.ai had an excellent meeting with my engineering team earlier. Pushing over the weekend, we were going to get this out here ASAP. I'm working every single day until we are wrapped up and have that out to you all. Looking forward to the next one. Take care, everybody. Subscribe and share. Bye.